What's up, y'all? It's Brandon. I'm back at y'all with another video today. I feel like this is gonna be a great message. I really don't hear a lot of people speaking on this, especially not as thorough as I'm gonna be. It may be a long message with me today, so bear with me. Y'all know I don't give y'all none that y'all ain't gonna need, and that's gonna be intrusive. I'm always coming with some great knowledge and wisdom for everybody to take and exceed with, and you can take it and pass it on to as many people as you can. So today's message is gonna be about 25 red flags in any relationship, whether this is a partnership, a marriage, friendship, a family relationship. So this could be with your parents, cousins, siblings, aunt, uncle, grandmother, grandparents, whoever it may be. These are 25 red flags you should look out for, should I say. And I've had to learn this on my own as well throughout just experiences in life. And we all grow and develop, and we all just thrive, and we all wake up and grow and live life. And that's the biggest teacher every day. But everyone is not the same, of course. So here's the first one. The first one is definitely when the respect is not mutual. So me personally, I'm a person of mutual respect. I respect everybody, and I love everybody as they love me, and I give mutual respect, just even if I don't know you. So that could even be the strangers. But when it comes to family, the few people I call friends, co-workers, I meant to add that one as well, because a lot of people close to their co-workers or bosses or whatever, But when it comes to co-workers, friends, family, associates, partners, anyone I'm dating, any female like that, it's always about mutual respect. That's the number one thing. Everything gotta be founded on that. So I dealt with that a lot. I dealt with that a lot with my father, older people around me, definitely in the corporate world, management and things like that. A lot of people that were older than me, should I say. I always felt like they're more, I would say, they definitely felt like they knew more than me in the areas they did. But I would say it was more abusive. I was more, how can I say it? They use it against me. So when I would voice my opinion or ask questions or confront them on things they were doing wrong, they would never acknowledge that. And I would always notice, okay, disrespect ain't mutual, especially the way they would talk to me. So this is definitely something to look out for, because, when you're in a situation that's no mutual respect, it automatically just feel very, distasteful and draining, and then it causes a lot of back and forth. Usually, if you're that type of person, I have to learn that it ain't worth that. It ain't really worth that. Especially when you're getting out the situation. When ain't no evolution and evolving. When the situation in the relationship ain't going nowhere, no matter what type of relationship it is, sometimes you got to get rid of people and separate and do your own thing. And that's something I don't mind. If you know me, I'm fine being alone, just like I am in this video. And it is what it is, That's not what God called us to be. That's not how God called us to be alone for the rest of our lives. But, at some point in your life, you get in a season where you just got to be by yourself and, analyze. And that's how you think and understand who you are and what your mission is better. But like I said, when there's no respect given, how could you really receive it? How could you give out something that you ain't even getting? That don't even make sense. I feel like that's foolish. In my personal opinion, it's people that do that anyway. I wouldn't look down on people like that, but I would question their philosophical ideology. Like, how are they really thinking, or what do they stand for? That's a better way of saying it, because I don't stand for that. I ain't gonna lie. You don't respect me, I can't respect you, and usually it'll be some type of backlash or confrontation with that, or I just walk away. And I feel like, and I've learned now that it don't pay nothing to just walk away. Some people deserve to get blocked. Some people deserve to get ghosted, blocked, deleted. You don't need to give me your time no more. You don't got to show up to the family functions, the barbecues, the picnics, whatever it may be. You don't gotta be nobody friend. I don't even really give people that privilege to be in my circle like that. So it's just like, it's all about who and what you give your time to. That's what I've been learning in life. So yeah, just keep that in mind, man. The first one is definitely no mutual respect. So the second red flag in any relationship is lack of accountability. And it's definitely kind of segue a little bit to what I was saying. And what I mean by that is when there's no mutual respect, accountability is usually not in the picture, should I say. And I've had a fair share of dealings with this as well, and I'll go into detail with that in a minute. No lack of accountability gives a gateway of, I would say, narcissism, how can I say it? Just a person that just think they know it all and very aggressive and abusive. It depends on who it is, of course, but usually when a person don't know how to take accountability, they feel like they can get away with whatever and do whatever, and that's not how you want around you, because a lot of that, negativity and a lot of that behaviors can affect you, especially when you somebody like me that call out people wrongdoings, because that's how I am. I never could sit around nobody and see them just doing wrong and saying wrong, or it may be something as simple as where they go or what they buy or what type of car they drive, and it's just a time and a place for everything. But I know I have high discernment, so I can see, okay, this went wrong last time, you doing it again, better than that. And everybody don't want to hear that, and I had to learn that. Everybody don't want to hear what they shouldn't be doing, or how they might be putting you at risk, or what they did to that person to make them feel wrong, or why they should apologize, or how they even treated you wrong. Everyone is not like me. And I had to realize that my mindset is so far advanced, and I don't know it all. That's another thing. I can admit that. Everybody can admit that, because pride and ego are so strong, and that's a satanic thing. That's a demon. So if you got that in you, I pray you can get that removed, and you have to see God first, because can't nobody do it. Your son, daughter, cousin, husband, wife, girlfriend, no, they can't remove that from you, because we are all human. We have flaws that we working on. We should be, at least. Everybody not working on their flaws, because if you can't work on something you can't identify. And people that are not accountable, they don't identify with nothing, because their mindset is so corrupted they don't even understand what wrongdoings are. So when you point that out to them and tell them, hey, this ain't right, you wrong for that, that ain't the right way, I see you going down the wrong path. But if they don't want to see it, they were like, well, who are you to tell me? I don't want to hear that. Look, what did you do? They'll usually try to flip the narrative, or they just don't want to hear nothing. And to me, I feel like that's wasting time. Ain't no room for growth and evolution with nobody like that. And I'm at this chapter in my life where it's like, if it ain't a mutual aspect on not what I can get from you, but it's all about what can we take each other. In any type of relationship. If it's anything I'm gonna get from somebody, I want it to be knowledge, wisdom. I don't want money. Money don't mean nothing to me. I don't mind nobody giving me no money, especially when it comes to everything I got planned, the investments and things like that. If someone was to bless me with that, I feel very much honored and appreciative of it. But no one owes me nothing, So, and that actually segues into the next one, which is the third lesson, or should I say, the third red flag in a relationship, which is entitlement. This is very big. A lot of people are very entitled, especially in this day and age, and it's always been this way. But this could be in family relationships, friendships. Sometimes you can see someone that's very successful out of their family members, of coming from poverty, the struggle, coming from the ghetto. A lot of people that don't have much, they might have a history of just drug usage, or the education is maybe no higher than junior high or high school. Sometimes it might be an 8th grade education. A lot of people are very illiterate and don't know much about filing taxes, trading stocks, managing money right. So the illiteracy is high in their family. Money management is low. So things like that. And when they see a person like that with various sources of income, making millions of dollars and traveling around the world, and finances is great, and their credit is better, things that people didn't know about, and especially when somebody birthed you, or assisted in your upbringing, which your parents or grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles, or even siblings, sometimes they could feel like, okay, well, I helped play a part in this. Where's my piece of the pie? Or even friendships, sometimes you can meet a person, things could start off well. Y'all can have a great relationship. Y'all doing what y'all got to do together, or y'all just trying to come up, especially as young kids. Y'all go to y'all getting y'all teenage years, still figuring out life, getting in high school, go to college if that's what y'all choose to do. And, there might be two people that live in two different parts of the city, go towards two career paths, so y'all eventually depart. You might go to one college in New York, somebody might go to college in Boston or LA or Missouri or Illinois, wherever it may be. And that'll cause you guys to depart for a minute, but you might still keep touch with the person. But what I'm trying to say is, jealousy is rooted in entitlement. I don't really say I can't be, because that the mindset that somebody owe you something is kind of absurd to me. I never had that mentality because I was always taught to make something of myself and go get it on your own. And I was always, that was always embedded in me, you know, so I never knew nothing much of that. And I was always the only child for 20 years, of course, until I had my first sibling, which is my sister. She's 7. But, you know, even then, you know, even still to this day, I never really harbor on asking people for what can they do for me and what they got. I've never been that type of way. You know, whatever I got from a person is because they wanted to do it. You know, I've asked people for stuff, and it was when I really needed assistance, or, you know, I might have needed money. I might have needed, you know, transportation fees, or maybe a recommendation on a job or something like that. But like I said, me personally, I'm just such a go-getter and a hustler. You know, I make a way out of no way. You know, it's going to get done regardless. And of course, with patience, I had to learn that in life. You know, it's all about being patient too. It ain't all my will. But I have asked a lot of people that I know can do it, but, you know, it's not my job to make them do it. I've asked people about helping me get into public speaking, helping me find jobs, apartments, a lot of things, and they said they would, and they didn't. So that just tells me, okay, it don't tell me to keep asking, or it don't tell me to hold no ill will in my heart. It just tell me, okay, I know how they moving, I know how they rocking now. I'm gonna shift gears and I ain't dealing with them no more. So it's just a lesson learned in everything. So I feel like entitlement is something to look out for. Because, you know, sometimes I feel like, and we've seen this a lot. I'm sure if a lot of people pay attention to the culture in the world, whether it's a celebrity, somebody that may be famous on TikTok, Instagram, whatever it may be, somebody that might be an author, you know, like I said, when you break those generational curses in your family, I feel like that's one of the most important reasons. That's why I'm using it. When you break them generational curses in your family, it just all of a sudden so many hands come out, and you rarely hear this with strangers. And that's probably because people don't know you like that. They don't have access to you to even ask for anything. But it's usually with the closest ones to you that you will least expect. Like, why you asked for something and you ain't played no part in my journey in life. You didn't even, you know, help me file the taxes. You ain't help me come up with this business plan. You ain't, you know, you didn't help me go to the bank to get the loan. You ain't make no calls for me. You know, if a person is a rapper, you know, they need beats, they need engineers, you know, they need song suggestions, and they need a lot of things. So any profession, you know, you got to start from somewhere, and everybody need help. You know, everybody need help. I'm not saying you don't need no help, but it just, I feel like, you know, you shouldn't be entitled, or you shouldn't feel like nobody owe you nothing if you didn't personally assist them at one point or play a part in where they at. And even then, you know, you shouldn't, because that's not promised. I feel like that mentality will lead you to eventually being disappointed. And if you are someone that is dealing with someone that is entitled to what you have or what you've earned, or even where you may be going in life, you know, I feel like you should separate from, because, you know, if you can't repair that relationship, or at least let them know where they going wrong at, or why they don't deserve to have anything from you. You don't owe them anything. If they can't accept that and really be honest with themselves and reflect on what you're saying and analyze in the mirror and be like, you know what, that's true, because I didn't play a part in this, and they did it on their own. And, you know, no matter who I am to them, it's still their life to live. If they can't look at it from your lens, which most people can't, you know, you got to watch out for that, because that's going to create a lot of doors that's opening already at a young age, or whatever, however old you may be, to, you know, have so many people, you know, plot against you and do things that you may not even know. So I don't want to harbor on that one for long, but it's very important. So I'll get to the next one, y'all. And this is number 4, backhanded compliments, or which is hidden animosity to me. This is very, very, very detrimental. It can be faithful in some cases, especially when people ignore it. To me, I would describe a backhanded compliment as basically someone, it's kind of like throwing a slick shot, but it's not a compliment because it's not genuine. I'll give an example. Let's say you somebody like me that's known for like getting fly, you know, putting on some nice clothes, looking good, keeping up your appearance. And it might be somebody that's known for the same thing, but they don't get the attention that you get when you pop out. So we're like, oh yeah, that's a cold hat. But who you think you is with that? Or it'll say something about your shoes. Knowing you got the newest Jordans, and not even that, it's some Jordans they got You know, they might have the general release Jordans that everybody can get access to, but you might have the ones online that cost $700-800. Then that's a lot to pay for some shoes. I done did it, so I know. And if you know anything about them type of shoes, you know there's not a lot of people with them, but they ain't got that type of money. But like, oh, you think you got some money, huh, with them? And they might know about the shoe, they know the model, they know the year they came out, just like you do. So in your mindset, if you somebody that's been close with this person for a long time, y'all crack a lot of jokes and things like that, you may not think nothing of it. You know, you'll probably laugh with them or crack another joke back, you know, and that's not a joke, especially because, you know, it's always, everything is spiritual. You know, I didn't look at life like at that. I didn't look at life like that at one point because I didn't really know my relationship with God and my walk with God wasn't where it is now. And I'm still growing, you know, I'm sure we all are, but you got to pay attention to those backhanded compliments. You got to pay attention to those backhanded compliments. Excuse me for stuttering, y'all. Yeah, it's a problem with my speech, but that's another topic for another day. You got to pay attention to those backhanded compliments because, you know, that can really, you know, be a life or death situation. It could put you in a life or death situation, I say. And I've seen this a lot of times. You know, sometimes I might come across a reel or a topic on YouTube or Facebook, TikTok, whatever it may be. And, you know, I've noticed that some of the same things I've been through, a lot of people have been through, or even worse, and they brush it off. And they just got too much of a big heart. I feel like that could hurt you. You know, that definitely could hurt you, being too nice and friendly. Too much. Sometimes it is too much love, you know, and I believe in that strong-heartedly. You know, you can show too much love. And what I mean by that is, you know, everybody don't deserve your access, so you got to know that. I got a lot of topics, y'all, so I don't want to harbor too long on the same thing. So number 5 is people that's placing their fears and doubt on you. That's very strong. When you're somebody that's so ambitious, got high goals set for yourself, you know what you want to do, you know you want to accomplish a certain thing or even more than one thing, and you know you just know the purposes and the plans that God has put in your heart. You got to move around from people that's placing their fears and doubt on you, because what you see in yourself and your future, they don't see that. You know, they see them. That's all they see, and they see that current situation, their current circumstances, and you know they wouldn't want anyone else around them to go bigger and better. They wouldn't want to see people excel and expand and go beyond the present. You know, and that's rooted in hate. That's rooted in envy and jealousy. So, you know, that's not anyone you want to carry on your ship. You know, you don't want to bring nobody like that on your journey. So if you can identify with that, you know, get rid of those type of people and understand that that's not a loss for you. That's a gain, because it's actually a spiritual awakening. God has, you know, giving you the option to see that in your face. And, you know, it's up to you at that point what you're going to do. So I strongly advise you to remove people like that from your circle, or even family if you have to. So number 6 is no mutual support. Now, this one is definitely important because once again, it can apply to any one of these relationships. And it kind of segues into entitlement, but it's much different in a way. See, the difference between support and entitlement is, once again, like I said, entitlement is just automatically feeling like someone owe you something because you was around them, you may have helped raise them, you just simply know them. But support, that is optional. But, you know, you just look at it like, okay, like me, I'm someone that support anybody that I don't even got to know you. You know, that's usually who I support. Anybody. Most of the people I support, they don't even know me. We never met. You know, so I done bought people clothing brands. I done shared people photography pages, people that's artists. I done reposted their music. I done shared them to different producers and engineers. I know people that got car washes, clothing lines, girls that need their hair done. I done shared them to cosmetologists, all type of stuff. I support people that I do know, family, people that is friends, that was once my friends. I've supported a lot of people, my father, my mother. I just support because my love is love, and it don't come with a price. It's just me, and that's just what I do. And I don't hate on nobody, because I love to see people win and, you know, do something big and go further. That make me know, that just assure me and let me know that everything that God has placed in my heart and my mind, and, you know, he's giving me all these plans and goals and business aspects that I put on my phone and write down, and whatever it may be. I don't want to reveal it on camera because I'd rather let it speak for itself. But when I see people winning in any lane, no matter if it's what I want to do or not, if I don't support it monetarily or financially, I support it with a like, a share, a comment, a repost. I tell people about it. Oh, you heard about them over there? You might want to go shop with them, or you ain't shop with them. You need your hair done. That's who do that. Whatever it might be. Some people that sell cars. That's just how my heart is. I don't have no hate in me. So what do it pay me to hate on somebody? But when you in a friendship, when you got a helpmate, a girlfriend, girls, you got boyfriends, husbands, wives, for men, family members, you kind of almost expect to see mutual support if you somebody like me. And then when you don't see that, it will probably disappoint you. Like, wow, I didn't expect all these other strangers I don't even know all around the world and in my city from different sides of the town, and then they in the suburbs and in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia and Atlanta, especially if you're doing something big like content or you got a business and people supporting you and really rocking with you, buying your product, they sharing your posts, commenting on your page and whatever it may be. When you see so many strangers or people that you don't even know from all around the world supporting you, the bigger you go on your journey, you'll be kind of like, wow, I thought this supposed to be who it is at home that I really know and I had a deep connection with in the bond, the ones that helped raise me and the same ones that I was doing the same thing for. And I've witnessed at a young age, I did not get the same support that I've given, especially from people that I know. And I know I haven't even touched the surface on what I'm destined to do. So y'all be mindful of that, especially if you're young and ain't even really reach God's potential for you. So just pay attention to that. I get thirsty quick, y'all. My mouth get dry. I probably got to go to the doctor about that. I hope it ain't nothing serious. I don't think it is. But I just came from a long walk, too, so it's warm outside. So I'll get to the next one. The seventh red flag in any relationship is laziness. That will also tie to another one, but I'm gonna get to that when it comes to it. Laziness is just that irks me, and I don't feel like it's really no justifying that. A lazy person is just somebody, especially if you're somebody like me that's ambitious and always on the go, and I understand you can burn yourself out like that, which I try not to. But me, I'm always thriving for more, doing research, exercising, willing to learn, willing to grow, praying, trying to stay as consistent as possible. I'm not even as consistent as I need to be on YouTube, on social media, TikTok, and that's just probably because of my fear of not being in the camera. I'm used to being behind the camera, honestly, taking pictures for people and recording. I ain't really used to this, but it's just I have to step out on, faith and answer God's will. It's not my will, and I say that a lot, but I gotta act on it. But when you somebody that just don't want to do nothing, I can't be around you, because sometimes that energy that can feed off on you and you can become just like them, especially dwelling in that same household, especially if you live with your parents or another family member, for people that's in a relationship or in a marriage, that can really, that's a spirit, that's sloth. It actually is a sin as well. So, if you in that moment, or if you dwell in that spirit, should I say, you should think about that, because life is so short and precious, and we don't know the time and the hour when we're gonna be called home, and God is gonna call us, and we're gonna be in front of Him on Judgment Day. We're gonna have to answer for everything on this earth that we did or didn't do. So, it's just all about taking advantage of time and what He has called us to do. And when you know that, I feel like that's a responsibility and a duty. So it's some people that don't know. I understand that, and that's not the same thing as being lazy. I feel like if you don't know what your purpose and your duty and your mission is, you should pray, fast, and get closer to God. But when you know, and you just lazy, or some people that just don't want to do nothing, don't want to take advice, just want to wander off on life and just all about wasting time, thinking everything's a game, I stay away from them, because it's just so much that come behind people like that, and it's usually nothing positive. I never saw it, at least, so I just don't really want nothing to do with nobody like that, because that's not what I'm about. And I usually hang around people that represent what I represent, and we have a lot of, if not all, but some of the common characteristics in common. And it's all about morality, integrity, being stewards of knowledge. So we all seeking wisdom. We just all stand on something, chasing bigger things, trying to get out of our environment, our city where we come from. Just all about bigger and better, But when you ain't around nobody like that, they kind of like, I don't look down on nobody, but at some point, I look past certain people. That sometimes you gotta look past certain people when you growing up, and that's how it is. That's just the truth, But that don't necessarily mean you better than them, because I don't think I'm better than nobody. I think I'm me. I know I'm me. Should I say that? And when when you know who you are, you just gotta know what you stand for. That's all it is. So that's another example. That's another form of knowledge, y'all. The eighth reason, or should I say, the eighth red flag in any relationship is a person with no morality. And this just segues to what I was just speaking on. See, when you got somebody like me that just understand what morality and integrity really means, which is doing the right thing, being righteous, justified, understanding boundaries, knowing what's right and wrong and what you will and won't do. Somebody that ain't always chasing clout, trying to get an image in the wrong way. Somebody that, if you somebody like me that just, you're you, regardless of the environment or the setting. You don't need a certain amount of people, or you don't have to be in a certain environment to conform to that and switch up and become somebody else. I don't like people like that. I don't get along with people like that. I actually stay away from people like that if I can. But if it's not up to me, if it's an environment where, okay, I don't even know these people and I just had to, if it's like a public setting or something like that, I usually try to get out of that setting as much as I can, because wherever there's no morality, there is no such thing as right and wrong, to them. So there's not an equal balance at that point. So I'm not going to date a woman, or I'm not going to marry a woman that don't stand for nothing. If she let co-workers disrespect her, she go to work. This is a great example of morality, and I stand for this, and I encourage y'all to do the same. I've had a lot of instances with jobs, and some people might say, well, yeah, you quit and don't quit. And I've had a lot of people, not a lot, but I've had people say this, but that show me where their mind is at. Chasing money is not the same thing as trying to become wealthy. See, you chasing money, usually you won't get wealthy. Chasing money, you don't have morality. So I've had jobs where a lot of people have, not trained me, and not only did they not train me, they talked to me and belittled me and cursed me out, and now I'm going back and forth with them and telling them who you think you're talking to, and we cursing back and forth. It just, so much drama and chaos, but, and it didn't justify how I spoke, because now I'm feeding to the negative energy on what they gave to me. And that's me. And that's what they wanted. They wanted a reaction. So at the time when you tricked in the heat of the moment, your emotions, you don't see it like that. But I stand for my morality, and you're not going to disrespect me, and you ain't going to say nothing or do nothing or act disorderly when I didn't cause that. You're not going to belittle me at all because of no title, your age, what you think you know, how long you been somewhere, who you is to me, a family, friend, mother, father, cousin, brother, sister, uncle, auntie. It don't matter. Like, that don't mean nothing to me. And I always say this a lot, and I've been saying this to my dad, and a lot of people, age do not define maturity. That's a big thing. So I think a lot of people should take that as a lesson, and run with that. If you don't know, this is a perfect example. And don't just take my story. We all got our own story. Sometimes everybody's not at where they should be in life, period. But, it's a season to learn everything. So morality is something that I encourage everybody to obtain and maintain, because when you don't got that, you don't really got nothing. It don't matter what you worth or what you got, what kind of car you driving, what clothes you wearing. I can't stand next to you. I can't stand next to nobody that don't stand what I'm standing on. And that's what I say. And that's what I mean, because it's just facts. And this plays a big reason why I really don't have a lot of people around me. I don't have many friends, and even I don't hang with many family members, honestly. And if I am, it has to be a mutual understanding. We have to have a reason for being around each other, and at the same time we have to stand for the same thing, morality and integrity. So when there's no morality, it's just ain't no room for me. It's a waste of time, and I'm just not going to be in the presence. So the ninth red flag in any relationship is a person that only calls when they need something. That's a big thing. A lot of people have experienced that. I've experienced it on a few occasions. That's very selfish to me. I feel like, everybody deserves their own time. Everybody going to need something, and everybody needs people. Everybody needs somebody for something, not to use them, should I say, but I feel like God puts people in our lives for reasons, and I'm a very strong believer in Jesus Christ, and what He can do and what He has done, and even the things that I haven't even seen Him do yet, because He's capable of doing so much more in my life. But everybody's in our life for seasons, and sometimes forever, but it's not always up to us, especially we can't make the choice, which we do have choices, but sometimes it's divine alignment, and sometimes it's a season, it's a lesson. So, and that goes back to what I was saying. When you got a person that's always calling you when they need something, that'll tend to irk you, and that'll show that they really don't care about you. They care about what you can do. I've dealt with that before. Me purposely, I've never done that. And if it's anybody that feel like I've done that to them, I would hope that they can address me and say that. I've never experienced it yet, but if you have, let me know, and I can sincerely apologize, because that was not the case. I didn't mean for it to be the case, should I say. I've asked people for favors, once again, like I was saying. I've asked people to help me, but have I constantly reiterated that? No. Have I constantly asked for things? No, because that's just not my character. I just understand the word no. Sometimes you gotta set boundaries to say no. And even when you do help and say yes, or come through for a person, ain't nothing wrong with that at all, because God calls us all to help and be an open hand. He don't call us to be selfish, but he does want us to have boundaries and understand that everyone is not genuine when they ask, or when what they want from us. They, sometimes a person could want, they can be genuine when they really want the resources and the help, and sometimes they could just want to steal your peace. So you got to know how to distinguish between the two. And I feel like a lot of people don't know how to distinguish between the two, because they just too caught up in trying to please another person and be nice, and they're afraid to say no. I'm not afraid to say no. So that's something that I would encourage a lot of people to do. But yeah, a person that's always calling when they need something is usually gonna keep you up a lot. They don't care about what you gotta do, where you gotta go, your money, your finances. You might have your money put away for something that's more important, but they might call asking all the time to get money for their car note, or rent they gotta pay, or bills, debt, whatever it may be. And you may not have the intentions on even thinking about doing that for nobody, but just because that's your friend, or your girlfriend, or somebody a family member, you're gonna say, okay, I gotta do this. No, you don't. You have a choice. You can do what you choose to do, and we all have choices in life. So never make nobody feel like you can strictly do nothing for them. It's all about what you want to do, and it's all about testing spirits first. That's a big thing. That's a great form of advice, should I say. So number 10 is a person that just always has constant drama and chaos around them, and they enjoy conflict. Now, this is just quite simply self-explanatory for me. I ain't with all the drama and the chaos. I ain't with all the rambling and just negativity. I'm just not a person that conform to that, because I don't represent that. That's not my character, my persona. I'm laid back, chill, and I just do me. So I just don't look at it as sensible or it's not knowledgeable or reasonable for me to stand firm or should I stand next to anyone that's always about chaos and drama. I feel like in this day and age with social media, a lot of people that live for validation with social media and the image they can get on the internet, they just live for attention. I don't really agree with that. I don't like people like that, because I don't live for that. I'm me on and off the camera, so and that kind of segues into drama. We see a lot of drama more than ever on the internet if we don't see it in person. But I can't be around nobody like that, because you are who you hang around sometimes. Honestly, that is true, because two or more can't be together unless they be agreed. Can two or more be together unless they be agreed? That's the Bible say that. So you got to think about that and be mindful. Like, whoever you hang around, whatever they do, that can affect you, good or bad. Especially, and usually in more cases than none, it's usually worse than good. So when you got a person that's always quick to react to everything, reiterating, or should I say, starting and entering confrontations a lot, and bringing on their drama around you, pulling up on everybody to start fights, carrying illegal guns, drugs. It just depends on who the person is. You just need to really know who you're around, because in this day and age, don't nobody care about nobody but themselves. Not everybody, but a lot of people that have that type of mentality. Drama-filled people live for drama. They don't live for solitude, or should I say morality and dignity. They don't understand that, because it's all about them. It's not about, okay, well, I got this going on, but I'm protecting you from it. You ain't got nothing to do with this, so No, you stay where you at and let me handle my own situation. Somebody could come pick you up. They'll tell you nothing they got going on. They'll tell you who they just got into it with, and you never know what can happen. The car can get sprayed up. They can take you. Y'all can be sitting out. This go for us. Not me, of course, but this go for men. I'm just speaking for us as gender. This go for women. It go for your parents, friends, uncle, aunts, whoever. So you gotta be careful and understand what people going on. And this is why I analyze and really watch and pay attention to everything. And when I see a person that's constantly in drama, because we have our quarrels and we go through things with people. It's all about responding. I'm the type of person, I don't live for drama, but I don't back down from nobody. So when somebody come my way, I'm gonna defend myself, or if they, they want a confrontation, if it's everything that we're feeding into, and I feel like as we get older, if you're not taught that at home, you should understand, and that's a part of growth and understanding and just evolve. And I've had to understand that because, like I said, I don't back down. So by me being the person that don't start no problems, it really upset me when people come at me wrong. And then when they come at me left, I usually go off, right? So that's not always good though, because sometimes feeding into things that people want you to feed into, they can kind of say, okay, well, let me see where his head at. Let me say this, or let me do this, so I can see what I can do. And once I get them left, or you just know some people are very manipulative and got that evil spirit in them that you may not even have, but just trying to get caught up in reacting and proving something can go left. So that's another form of manipulation to me. And you just got to be careful of people like that just constantly drama filled. So yeah, that's really important. Victim blaming is number 11. That's very important. It kind of segues to me into a person that doesn't have accountability, a person that always play the victim. I don't agree with that. I don't respect that, because this could be anyone. This could be a person that is always going through a financial crisis. And I understand times is hard. We all struggle at some point. If you don't just come from a super wealthy family, a background full of, wealth and stocks and IRA accounts and properties that's worth millions and billions of dollars. If you don't come from this type of stuff and that type of environment, then you probably don't have it like that. And you got to work your way up and grind. But, sometimes you got to be accountable. Okay, why I don't have money? People that have baby mama drama, pick women wisely, and you don't have to go through this. Same with women, your man and who you come into agreement with, especially to have a child, is, you got to deal with that because it's deeper than you all. Now it's the spirits in the person. Now it's the, what he had going on before you. You got to really consume all of that on top of having a child with them. And sometimes, in most cases, y'all don't even plan on having a child. Y'all didn't talk about the finances, the mental aspects of sitting down, raising a child. Y'all can't do the same thing y'all used to do. It's anything. So, and everybody want to play the victim and, oh, well, what if it was this? Or I wish they had done this better. Or I wish I came from this. Or, man, they got me doing. It's just always excuses out excuses. And that's a way to see a person playing the victim, especially when you say they don't want to change, or they don't say I could have did better if it wasn't for me making that decision or going over there, or if I didn't pick that person, we wouldn't even be in this situation. I wouldn't have a child by her. Or same with women, y'all could say that, or any situation. Or it could be about money. Somebody could say I'm in debt. I got a lot of credit card debt. I'm in student loans. I had a great career. I could have paid them off by now. It was a lot of money, but somebody could be up in $40,000, $50,000 student loans and have a $230,000 career, single, no kids, and 10, 20 years later, they didn't let it increase, and, it done went up with the annual percentages and the fees. So, that's an example. It's just so many examples of that. But victim blaming it leaves no room for improvement, and that can, feed off into you if you let it. So, I encourage you to stay away from those type of people, because I definitely do. Number 12 is a person with no ambition. A person with no ambition leaves very little room to grow. And it also segues into laziness, no morality, because, when they don't have ambition, they're not going to want to see you grow. See, you can't have talents and growth around people like that. You can't have the attitude to grow and expand and to thrive and to succeed, because, everything that you blessed with, and everything that God has blessed you with, should I say, it's internal, it's spiritual, and it's going to show, especially once you, put the talents to use, right? And usually the person like that will also put their fears on you as well, because, we all have fears at some point, but some people have, stepped out of those quicker than others, and at the same time, like I said, when you just the person that what you accomplish, what you want to accomplish, you just that go-getter and you got the hustle mentality, a person with no ambition, they're going to want to see that. So you definitely got to stay away from people like that. Lack of loyalty for me is number 13. I'm very big on loyalty in any type of relationship. Loyalty to me is somebody that, definitely got me how I got them, represent what I represent when it comes to morals, self-respect, dignity, growth, righteousness, uplifting each other, calling out each other on our wrongdoings. It's all about, it ain't just a word, it's a lifestyle to me. So, you ain't got no loyalty, it ain't no foundation in a relationship. That's a friendship. It could be, once again, a relationship, a partnership, marriage. What is it without loyalty? Ain't no love without loyalty to me. So, to me, I just depart from people like that. It ain't got to be no ill will, no hate, but at least I know where I stand, and I encourage y'all to do the same. The 14th red flag is when it's conditional love. Now, a lot of people get this confused, don't know exactly what I mean by that, or they don't know exactly what that means, should I say. But now I'll explain. Conditional love is an example of manipulation. It could also have envy tied to it. And what I mean by that is you can grow up in a household with one or two parents. But let's say you grew up in a household with two parents, right? And you get all you want. And now you really never, now of course as the kids we ask for stuff, but you can get everything you want as a child. Your parents spend time with you, and it just be it'll be one parent that it's just they behave much differently than the other. And as life go on, you'll get older. Now you may, get out of college, or you may start a job. You're making your own money now. So in most cases, you don't ask your parents so much, or you don't need them for monetary value, or for clothes, or to buy you bathing products, or to feed you, things like that, or even shelter sometimes. Some people get their own places very young, right? So sometimes when your parent or anyone, and even just parents, sometimes when people do so much for you, they'll see that, okay, they'll get in a bad predicament, and they'll be like, okay, well, I did this for him, or I did this for her a long time ago, whether that was a parent or it might be your uncle, your aunt, your cousin. Sometimes even relationships, this happens a lot, and they can bring all that up when they need you for something. But see, they need you because of the decision they made. You never needed them. Like as children, we need our parents, of course, to raise us and bring us up in the way a child should be, but we never asked to be born. So we have no, how can I say it? We don't have a say-so on even being in this world. So the conditions, or should I say the responsibilities of a parent is by nature, that's by default, right? So to throw that in your child's face is selfishness. And that can also be tied to envy, like I said, because a lot of people can see you going further in life, and they can see you have a mindset that they don't have. They can see you having material things that they don't have, or you can, have a better credit score. You can manage money that they didn't manage when they was your age. Whether you, like I said, a sibling, a child, and they could probably have done so much for you. Make it be like, hey, I did this for you, and what about the time you did that for me? Especially when you tell people no. That's usually when you'll see conditional love, and you be like, oh, it was this all that time, and I ain't even asked for it. Especially when people buy you, whether it's some material, or they gave you money, or they gave you a ride, it don't matter. So, you'll feel like, okay, well, I thought it was just off the strength of you being you, and I'm close to you and related to you, and you my parent or sibling or uncle, aunt, or a close friend, in the partnership, you my husband, for women, y'all say that, for, you my wife, my girlfriend, you just gonna throw it in my face like that. Why you even do it? Because I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that, because like I said, when I support, I support. When I give, I give. And, I don't mention that at all, in no case, in no shape, way, or form. So I don't agree with I don't respect people that do that. I don't like that at all, because I look at it like this. If you're going to do something for me, do it. If you're not, then just don't do it. What I ask or I don't ask, but I would, instead of, mentioning what you've done, I would rather you tell me I don't want to do it, or no. because I understand that, and I'm not gonna question that. You understand? So that's just how I am. You know, I just look at things totally different than a lot of people, and you know, I guess it's come with maturity. So everybody don't have that, or to a certain degree. Some people don't have it at all. But the 15th reason why, the 15th red flag you should look out for is gatekeepers. And the reason I say this is because knowledge is free, and I say this all the time. It costs nothing to give nothing, and free game costs nothing. You know, I'm a person that always give knowledge, wisdom. I encourage, I uplift, I inspire, I show love, I support. I help people build foundations. To be honest, I done help people make money that I never got a chance to make. I done get people in rooms that I ain't got in. I done help people sign record contracts. You know, I don't got this ain't bragging and boasting. I'm just being real, but and this ain't to say that people won't help me. Some of them haven't, but this ain't to speak for everybody, you know, because I can't do that. But you know, pay attention to people that gatekeep information from you, because for one, like I said, it don't cost nothing at the same time. And then if people see your potential and they know your plans when you tell them, a lot of them can see where they are, and they might be way more successful than you, especially if they've been doing something longer, even if it ain't in your field or what you know, maybe if they're not even doing the same exact thing that you want to do, you know. So you may want to start your own record label, but they might be a club promoter. And we all know music and clubs is tied in, right? It's not the same exact thing, but it's in a similar industry, which is entertainment, right? So if somebody is a club promoter, they'll see that, okay, they made a lot of money as a club promoter, but you start your own record label and reshaping the record industry. Eventually, over time, you're gonna be very wealthy with that and have a lot of artists under you and give them opportunities to do something even bigger. So once you start talking like that and telling people that never thought of that, be like, nah, if you asking, okay, well, do you know any A&Rs I can speak to? Do you know anyone that owns a record label that can give me the game on the finance? Do you know a attorney, like someone that's maybe an entertainment lawyer? You know, especially if you got some funds to get it started. Even if you don't, you know what, no matter what it is, it could be somebody you could be trying to start a clothing brand like me. You know, you might see somebody that you know or don't know that, you know, can you tell me your vendor, or do you do screen print? Do you do 3D print? Is it hand press? What type of printer is that? You know, things like that. And some people, they could lie and say they use something totally different, or they just say nah, or they might not respond, especially if it's via social media in the DM or even people that's close to you. But like I said, I just feel like free game costs nothing. It don't. And so it ain't even an opinion, it's a fact. And at the same time, it's a lot of envy and jealousy out here. You got to be mindful of that. I know I am, at least. So y'all be careful. Y'all be very mindful of that. And gatekeeping is real, and I just don't honor that at all. So number 16 is prideful and boastful people. Now this is very strong. God does not honor that. I don't honor that. God does not call us to be prideful and boastful, because he wants us all to stay humble. So whatever we get, whatever we maintain, is not always our doing. Of course, faith without works is dead. He wants us to work for our earnings. You know, man that don't work don't eat, and we must take care of our families and do what we can for us while we're here. But we must understand where it's rooted from, who is rooted from, should I say. We didn't get our talents on our own. We got them from God. So whenever you start boasting and being prideful and speaking to everybody, now you can speak, ain't nothing wrong with speaking on your talents and what you've done. But whenever you start, should I say, looking down upon somebody because of that, you'll fall fast. So keep that in mind. Number 18 is people that don't keep up their hygiene or physical appearance. This is something I just can't stand by, because I'm always somebody that, you know, I keep up my physical hygiene and appearance. I was taught that since a kid, a child. You know, my parents cleaned and bathed me. They gave me the finest clothes, and now that I can do that for myself, I don't go a day without doing it. So I could never stand next to somebody like that, and I don't look down upon them, but I feel like, you know, for me to stand next to somebody and we going out and we taking trips or doing what we doing, and I know somebody is just like purposefully bummy, that show me that you don't even respect yourself and value not only what others think about you, what you think about yourself. Like how do you view yourself? So I just can't do that, whether you male or female. So I just look at that very kind of odd. Number 19 is people pleasing attention seekers. Now these are the type of people pleasing attention seekers. I don't like those type of people. Like I mentioned Like I mentioned before, I'm sorry. I'm not a person that conforms with validity, chasing validity or clout. My attention comes natural. If you see me, you see me. If you recognize what I'm doing, that's cool. But I just feel like those are the type of people that are very insecure. We see this a lot in this day and age. And, be mad for those type of people because they'll do anything for attention. They'll do anything for attention. You don't know what they'll do to you. So those are dangerous. Those are dangerous people to be around. So depart from them as quickly as possible. Know-it-all people is number 20. Stay away from the know-it-alls, because when people think they know it all, they're very prideful, arrogant, and they can't be told nothing. So when you try to give them any type of knowledge or constructive criticism, speaking of accountability again, they don't usually want to take that. And it's all about, what can I tell you? Or, they already know if they, no one knows it all, for one. I don't know it all. You don't know it. No one knows it all. Every day we should be striving to get up and grow and excel and expand our mind, our knowledge and growth and our mentality. So if you ain't a person like that, I don't even want you around me, because, we're not going to really naturally intertwine. We're not going to grow and mature together. So I stay away from the know-it-alls. And I've had a fair share of encounters with people like that. And that's out of pride. Number 21. It's people that can never take constructive criticism. I feel like no matter who you are, you need somebody around you that can kind of put you in line sometimes, especially when you can't recognize your own wrongdoings. We see a lot of people that get high and mighty and build empires and fall because they got the wrong people around them. I don't want people like that around me, and that's why it's very important to kind of really be strategic on who you bring on your circle, and especially to how you climb with success or just life in general. When you can't take constructive criticism, that's gonna also be your own demise. So you kind of really be you funding that at an early age, or no matter how old you may be. But I don't stand with that at all. So if you got somebody like that around you, if that's a red flag, and you need to identify with that and separate from those type of people. But number 22 is people that lack intuition and discernment. That's very important in today's age. I'm very intuitive. I'm always looking and watching, listening to everything as much as I can. I'll use discernment as much as possible. Sometimes I might, recognize something a little quicker than another person just because I'm not on any drugs. I don't drink. I'm not on any pills. I take medication, but that's for epilepsy. But anything other than that, I'm not on any hallucinogens, any type of drugs. I'm just free. And God says, we all must have a sober mind. So I'm just always alert. I'm very alert. I think my upbringing had a lot to do with that, because I had to grow up very fast in my environment from the people I was around. So, I'm always watching every car, how people getting on and off the bus, the train. I'm on public transportation. I'm looking at people as they walk, how their hands in their pocket, what they got on. I'm just always observing, no matter where I am, whether I'm in the city, in the burbs, and out of town, wherever I'm at, I'm always on everything. So stay away from people that lack intuition and discernment, because, they may not be up on it like you. Number 23 is people that's not willing to grow and evolve. Now, this kind of simply speaks for itself. It segues into no ambition. If you ain't willing to evolve and grow, it's just like, okay, what you really here for? Especially when you somebody like me that's, got so much more to do in life, and you recognize that, you really ain't gonna get along, and you ain't gonna really be able to coexist well with somebody that ain't willing to grow and evolve. So this is something to look out for. And, it's kind of like self-explanatory. It's like, what we really doing together, no matter what type of relationship you in, a partnership, relationship, business, family. I get rid of people like that. I just separate myself. Either you gonna go, I'm gonna go. It's up to you. But if it's up to me, I'm gonna leave. Number 24 is a person that has no relationship with God. I understand we are all on our different walks in spirituality. No one is perfect. It's not about who can quote the Bible the best. It's about who walks in God's word, and it's about who understands and recognizes God and His voice. No spirituality is very strong to me. That's very important, because I was brought up on that, and I had to still find my own walk. Just because my grandmother was saved and my aunts were saved, that didn't make me saved. I had to get saved, and I'm still growing and evolving. I'm learning God's word. I'm letting go of old habits, gluttony, lust, greed, a lot of pride, a lot of things that I've had in my spirit and my heart that I didn't even know that existed, honestly. Revenge, strife, anger, so bitterness, a lot of grudges I used to hold. I'm letting that go. So I'm just growing and evolving and just trying to be the best version of myself. And I can't call myself a disciple of Christ and walk with somebody that's not, because that's not fellowship that's not like-minded, you know. And like I said, this is not to judge nobody, but like I said, for me to be a disciple of Christ and to be a follower, I must, you know, strengthen myself by and also allow someone. I also must strengthen myself by, you know, pushing the word, and not pushing it, but, you know, should I say, giving the word to someone that may not know it as well, and, you know, passing on the faith, because the ultimate goal is to make it to his kingdom. And the last red flag is threats. Now, this is very serious. When it comes to somebody threatening you in any relationship, before it get to a physical point or you lose your life, you need to leave. I've witnessed this, and it wasn't in a personal relationship. It was a friendship. It was actually somebody I was helping promote a party. It's crazy because I was on the phone with this young lady, right? And it just came out the blue. It kind of shocked me, so I really didn't know how to respond to it until I, you know, eventually just stopped dealing with her maybe about a few days later. But I was talking to her, and she needed party promoters, and we was at schools together. We was at college, and I knew so many people more than she did because I was more of a social butterfly. I didn't have a lot of friends, but she was one of them, and I just knew so many people. Every time I would walk around, people knew me, and I knew a lot of people that did promote parties. She didn't like a lot of the artwork. She didn't like a lot of the graphic design, and there was this one guy, I really didn't know him too well, but I was introduced to him in high school. He went to Alabama State, so I called him on the phone. We was on a three-way call, and, you know, they ended up talking to each other on their own, and she liked what he had going on. She liked his camera work and his editing and things that he did at the school down there and the parties that he hosted. So she ultimately chose to deal with him. I don't know if they did business together or not, but if she was hosting this Jersey party, and it was like, okay. So I started asking about security and who's gonna be the security. She said her father's gonna be security, and we had issues with different people at the time at school. It was two different females. The crazy thing about it, until she became the next one. So she had an issue with a girl that really didn't like her from what she was telling me. I don't know much about it, and I just asked, you know, by being such a viral event, I was sharing the flyer when she made it, and she was sharing it. I got thousands of followers on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. So that's 10, 20,000. Who knows how many people could see it, right? And that's what I was mentioning too. I was like, you know, what if the girl come that you don't like? She's like, well, I'm gonna get her kicked out. My daddy gonna kick out. She mentioned a young lady that I almost had a physical altercation with. You know, she was like, well, what if she come? I guess it was like a response tactic or maybe a subliminal diss. You know, I guess she thought I was trying to bring up drama with that question. That wasn't the case. You know, I was just really being concerned because, you know, in a house party, I don't even do house parties, to be honest. I've done them before, but very little. You know, that was probably in high school and more so at college, because, you know, it's not so much danger at college because everybody know everybody, not too many weapons and things like that. But when she asked me, I just said, you know, I would either remove myself and tell your dad, hey, you know, this young lady right here, we don't have the best history with each other. It can, you know, possibly get dangerous. So I don't want to put my hands on a young lady. You can remove her, I'll remove myself. And when I said that, she said, no, it's going to be some dudes in there. They're going to beat you up. They're going to do this and that. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, okay. And when I just shook my head on the phone, we was on FaceTime, she was like, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that. I was like, all right. And when I gave her that finger and shook my head, I already made up my mind, like, nah, she got to go. So I encourage y'all, man, if you got anybody that's making threats to you, no matter what type of relationship it is, get rid of them, because it ain't that serious. It ain't worth your life. So that concludes this video, man. I hope y'all enjoy it. You know, I enjoy giving the message to y'all. Y'all pass this on with somebody. Y'all like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let me know what y'all want to see next. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be more consistent with the content. Thank y'all.